The Imperial Star Destroyer is back out again, as it probably will be for a lot of these videos. So we can compare it with and talk about its little brother. Meet the Cantwell-class cruiser, also known as the capture ship or Arrestor cruiser. Featured in Solo, the movie, although it actually dates back to the 1970s in a weird way. And this is really one of those vessels that it makes total sense that the Empire would want and need. During the Clone Wars, of course, they were fighting against a standing army. They had the Venator, and then that would evolve into the Imperial-class Star Destroyer. And this was meant to project power and subjugate planets across the galaxy. It carried 72 TIE fighters, it had 60 turbo lasers, 60 ion cannons. It was a big hulking ship. It was 1,600 meters long, and if you count the stormtroopers on board, had a crew of over 47,000. So, huge resource drain. But, what about for more police actions? Security and law enforcement. Well, really, one of the first things the Imperial Department of Justice requested was something, a ship, a vessel, something to help them deal with pirates, smugglers, ne'er-do-wells, what have you. And the Imperial Navy could find a use or two for this kind of ship too. So after the Imperial won, Kuwait began developing the Cantwell here, and it took them 3 or 4 years. But by around 14 BBY, these were in full production and service. So what do we have here? Well, it is half the length of an Imperial Star Destroyer, or 800 meters. But it has much less volume. It only has a crew, counting officers, men, and support personnel, of about 2,770. Although that can be bumped up to near 3,000 with a full contingent of stormtroopers or law enforcement officers as passengers. It has one main engine here and a couple of secondaries for thrust. In the same basic styling as other Star Destroyers. And it also has these on the ends where it can be used as suction cups to stick onto your car window. Now, these are heavy tractor beam projectors to help it capture, detain criminal ships. And to help disable, it has 3 heavy-duty, high-powered ion cannons, one in each general area. So it can lock on to a ship with the tractor beams, and then wallop it with ion cannons. It also has 12 standard laser cannons and batteries of 3 each for defense. On top of that, it has 2 bays underneath, each one carrying a full squadron of TIE fighters. So a total of 24. Not bad. So 1/3 of an Imperial Star Destroyer. And in addition, it carries boarding craft and shuttles to get the police over. So makes perfect sense in that. And of course it has shields and other things. It would have been kind of interesting if it also had gravity well projectors like an interdictor, but oh well. So yeah, we just see this in passing in Solo. It's kind of a shame because, yeah, why would the Empire not have a police ship like this? It's good to kind of expand the Imperial fleet because we mostly see ginormous things. The Star Destroyer, the Super Star Destroyer, the Death Star. But when you're controlling a galaxy of millions and millions of planets and trillions of people, you need smaller, less expensive, more flexible craft, corvettes, frigates, and cruisers like this. And that's about all we really know about it. There hasn't been a ton said. Kind of got a thick thing here, you can tell. It is, it's going to be quite a bit smaller. And of course, this design from Colin Cantwell was one of the proposals back in the 1970s to George Lucas. The proposal that the Star Destroyer ultimately won in its arrowhead shape. But this could have been our Star Destroyer. At the time, it was called the Sith Carrier. So from the beginning, it was meant to carry fighters. And from the beginning, yeah, the name Sith was bandied about by George Lucas. And the idea was, back then, that each of these dishes would be kind of a Death Star-style collected laser. And Cantwell said he took inspiration from World War II era aircraft carriers, which I definitely can see with the deck here and the tower just moved to the back, the island. Yeah, I definitely see it. It does have a certain Essex class look to it, if you use your imagination a bit. So really all the creative team at working on Solo did, they found the original sketches and whatnot for this, and they dusted them off and turned it into a modern 3D model and plugged it into Star Wars, a Solo story, or a Star Wars story, or I don't know. They should have just done it on Chewbacca. So it's probably one of the more interesting things to come out of that. And I would be perfectly happy to give the new people credit for a design. Even if it's not your cup of tea, it's different. Kind of looks like the inverse of a Super Star Destroyer this way if you extended the back out. But no, this dates back to the original, which in some ways doesn't surprise me. I can't say it's exactly attractive, but it's unique. I can't really say like the Nebulon B frigate is attractive either, but it's unique. But yeah, the Imperial police ship, basically. Like I said, used by both the Justice Department and the Imperial Navy. And one can imagine, based on the relatively small crew and size, that this would be a pretty popular craft if you're needing to stop something. Now, this would not be something you'd want to use for outright battle, because it doesn't really have any turbo lasers or ordnance launchers, and 24 ties is fine, but probably not going to do a lot for a full assault on you there. This model, by the way, if you didn't read, it's one of the Hot Wheels. I don't think the Titanium series does an Arrestor cruiser, but I could be wrong. That's okay, though. Hot Wheels aren't bad. And, yeah, they did a perfectly good job with this Imperial ISD too. And they do match each other pretty nicely. Set them down. Move my cake spinner out of the way. Relatively light. It's die-cast, but this Imperial Star Destroyer is noticeably heavier. And while, of course, they're absolutely not to scale, it definitely gives the impression that one is bigger than the other, I'd say. So what do you think? Do you like it? I would much rather them try to do something, well, new, quote unquote, like this, then go the other direction and be too conservative, as they did with the First Order TIE Fighter and the T-70 X-Wing. Ironically enough, the T-70 X-Wing was another design proposal. I think it was from Ralph McQuarrie. I think it was from Cantwell. But, yeah, it seems like whenever they have something that looks good, it ends up, when you really investigate it, just being old art assets from the 70s. But yeah, just that I'd kind of talk about this and expand the Imperial fleet a bit. Pretty analogous to the Rebel frigate, I would say. So yeah, let me know what you think. And feel free, as always, to comment, and if you could, please like, share, and subscribe. This is Misha, and I'll catch you very soon next time.